Okay, I think we have some folks coming in now. It's 4:30 and we're just about ready to get started. So I just want to welcome you all to today's event, our Better Together February edition, Finding Your Authentic Leadership Style. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to jump right into we got some really great content for you, but we also want to get you talking, sharing your experiences about leadership with each other. And so in this picture here, this is a picture of the complimentary gift you were sent. So if you registered a week or at least a week ago, you would have gotten this in the mail. If you registered in the last few days, it is coming your way. So just stay tuned to get that surprise in the mail. Today's time we're going to do a quick welcome and introduction. And then we're going to just jump into the content, talking about authentic leadership, leading with your true self. And then we're going to have our breakout room discussion, where we're going to talk about identifying using your leadership philosophy or leadership story. And finally, we're going to wrap up with how we are better together and how we can use each other to move our school forward and to meet the goals that we want to meet. And also very important, make sure you stay on till the end because we are going to have some awesome, fabulous prizes in our giveaway. So stay tuned for that. I'd like to introduce you to our Better Together team. Obviously, you are very integral to this Better Together event tonight. My name is Dawn McCotter. I am the Teacher Programs Manager here at the Van Andel Institute. With me are my colleagues Temple Rosenberger, the Associate Director for Business Development, Student Programs Manager Randy Shrigardis, and our Director of Educational Partnerships, Aaron Braunschneider. And if you notice that QR code and the bit.ly there, I think Aaron's going to put that bit.ly also into the chat box. This is the resource guide or HyperDoc handout of all the strategies, the resources, links that I'm going to reference during our time today can be found here. So feel free to grab that now or use that whenever you want to during this time or after. Okay, so I thought I'd get the chat box warmed up a bit because I'd like to get you guys kind of talking virtually here. So what are the characteristics of a good leader? And what are the characteristics of a bad leader? You can answer both. You can just choose one, but let's go ahead and start getting that chat box going and warming that up for today's event. Thinking about leaders. I'm going to open that up. Yes, a good listener. Definitely. Active listening is very important. Communication, right? Honest, transparent communicator, inspiring, empathetic, jumping in to help. I notice all the good qualities, right? Because those are the things that we aspire to be, right? Enthusiastic, vulnerable, really, really important. Servant. Yeah, we're going to talk about servant leadership. Thank you, Kevin. Models, visible. Yes, being there, right? Patient, fair, consistent, and supportive. Yeah, consistency. I see that again. Yeah, visible. Yeah, that visible leadership. Being there for your staff, practicing what you preach, right? Relationship building. Excellent. All right, so you can keep that going in the chat there, and we're just going to go ahead and continue into our agenda. And we're going to talk about those qualities, those characteristics, but how those work for you, leading with your true self, that true, authentic leadership. And so I just wanted to take a step back and just recognize that, you don't have the time in your schedule to pour over all these types of books, these leadership books. And so we did that, we did the research. And so these are the 3 books that we used to put together our presentation today. And they're really great reads, and I have them linked in the HyperDoc, but we really just wanted to pull the most important pieces and nuggets to bring you something actionable, something that you can respond to and use after the session is done. All right, so I thought this was a very interesting concept in thinking about your personal self and your professional self, and how there sometimes is this struggle between who you are as a person and who you are as a professional. Do you have these kind of 2 identities here? So just maybe take a few seconds and think about these questions. You know, what words describe you in each of these identities, these personas? How do others see you, as a person and as a professional? You know, do you think people perceive you differently than you perceive yourself? And why is that? Why might there be this discrepancy? So it's just a really good framework to think about of how we do have, our personal selves and our professional selves. But when you think about authentic leadership, in really to lead with authenticity, to lead with purpose and with clarity, we need to try to merge those identities as much as possible. But that is easier said than done, right? So how can we do that? So let's talk about a way to merge those two identities. And it really boils down to understanding, building, and creating your leadership philosophy or your leadership story. Who are you as a leader based upon your personal leadership style? What are your leadership approaches that you prefer? Your core values, what makes you tick as a person? What do you hold true and valuable? What is your mindset when you're going into a particular situation? Is that mindset helping you make a decision that's going to move you and your school, your staff forward to the goals you want to achieve? And what about your life experiences? How can you bring that into your leadership philosophy? So those are the 4 areas that we're going to kind of uncover, and then we're going to also chat about in our breakout rooms. So let's start off with the leadership style. What is your leadership style? And I wanted to share with you 3 of the main types of leadership styles, but also give a little disclaimer here. There are many, many, many types of leadership styles, but these are the 3 main leadership styles that have really held the test of time. These are almost 100 years old, and you could probably identify different leaders in your life, in your experiences, that would fit into these different categories. So let's start off with our autocratic or directing leader. This person is a person that really wants to keep that control, very unilateral, making all the decisions, perceives that employees need a lot of structure, a lot of direction, a lot of step-by-step guidance, and very motivated by rules and procedures. Now, these types of leadership styles, these directing leadership styles, are really effective in times of crisis where decisions have to be made very, very quickly. You need one person at the helm that can make decisions at a drop of a dime, right? And it's also very helpful in training new staff who require a lot of guidance and structure and very close monitoring. An example of an effective autocratic leader is Bill Gates. Our second main leadership type is the more democratic or guiding leadership. And this is a more of a shared approach where feedback input from staff is used to make decisions. Instead of a directive or step-by-step, it's a much more guided approach to working with staff or coaching. And this is a very effective approach in building a culture of empowerment and engagement. And an example of that was Nelson Mandela, an example of that guiding leadership. And on the complete end of the spectrum from the autocratic is the laissez-faire, or the enabling. And this is really where all of the control is put onto the staff. All the decisions are made by the staff. They set their own goals. They're given an incredible amount of freedom and latitude, choice, and it's really very effective for cultures with complete autonomy. An example of a very effective laissez-faire leader, Warren Buffett. So these are the 3 main leadership types. And if you're interested, I believe Erin's going to put this in the chat here. There is this leadership style quiz based on these 3. If you're curious to find out maybe where you might fit in there based upon that quiz, feel free to take a look at that at any point or after our session today as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, those are 3 of the main types, and there's multiple other type of leadership styles, and they kind of pull in characteristics from all of those main types of styles. But I want to share with you 2 of the more education focused. styles. And the first one, and I think I heard this in the chat box as well, that servant leadership. That servant leadership is a leader who always puts others first. And they're very collaborative. They share the power. They want to work with their staff to solve problems, to work together. And so any decision they make it focused on how is this going to impact the people that I serve. And this type of leadership is very, very plentiful in service-related fields, and especially in schools. And then this last one I want to share with you is this instructional leadership. And this is where the focus is on the student, on instruction, where the decisions are made with teaching and learning in mind, meaning that's your focus. How are you going, is this decision going to impact student achievement? How am I going to move my school forward? Making a transformational change. So these leaders are willing to take risks. They challenge that status quo and they innovate. Now, again, I'm going to bring this disclaimer up here. There are many more leadership styles, but we all have an approach that we gravitate towards. But to think that we are pigeonholed into one particular style is inaccurate and not practical, because different contexts are going to require us to employ different types of leadership styles. For example, maybe you're more of a servant or guiding, democratic leader, and so you value that collaboration with your staff, and you want input before you make decisions. Well, if you rewind a few years ago, during the pandemic, decisions couldn't be made over long periods of time. They had to be very responsive, very quick. And so maybe during that time, you had to switch to something that was a little bit more directive, where you took control. You had to make the decisions. There wasn't time to bring in the input from so many other people. And that's what we call a situational leadership. Okay? And it depends upon that context. What is the situation and who are you working with? And there might be staff where you do have to employ different types of leadership styles. Some staff might need a little more structure, guidance, and so you have to be a little bit more directive. And some staff might need just some coaching, some mediative thinking and reflection work, and you employ more of a democratic style with them as well. And maybe some you're able to give more control and more of that laissez-faire. So it is very situational as well. And so I have more information about situational leadership in the hyperdoc if you are interested. Regardless of your leadership style and your preferred style, it's just really, really important to understand kind of what are your preferences. Where do you gravitate towards? Because that's part of your picture as a leader. But the other part of the picture as a leader are your core values. What are those beliefs, those principles that you hold true, that you don't waver from? You use those beliefs to make all of your decisions. And I was reading in one of the Harvard Business Review articles mentioned that those core values are really evident in times of crisis. You can really identify what are the things that are most important to you during those times. Now, one thing we can just try right now is if we take a look at, this is a chart of the majority of core values here. We take a look at the first column. If everyone just kind of scans down that column, and are there 2 or 3 that pop out at you right away? I'm like, yeah. Okay. Look at the second column, do the same thing. Are there 2 or 3 that really resonate with you? And then finally do that for the third column. Now, this was a very inaccurate and unscientific way to identify your core values, but I just want you to start thinking about how those core values shape who you are as a person and how you bring that into your leadership philosophy or story. Those core values not only mold you into your leadership, but also mold into the organization, the school, the district that you serve. They become a part of your organizational values. And I just wanted to share with you our values here at the Van Andel Institute. We have 6 values. And this is the filter we use to make any decision. So if there's a new idea or a new project or a new direction or something that's brought up, we use this. Does it fit within our values? If it doesn't, then we have to let it go. And so holding true to those values is incredibly important as you lead your school and your district and the people that you serve. Another resource I have, it's in the HyperDoc. If you're interested in bringing this back to your staff, I think this would be a great opportunity for you to bring this card sort to help your staff become more self-aware about those values that are most important to them. And then how those values then complement not only your overall school values, but also the values of the teachers that they work with. So again, this is in the HyperDoc for you to use as you see fit. Okay, so we talked about our leadership style. We talked about core values to create this leadership story. Now let's talk about your mindset. Now, we have heard mindset in education since 2007 and Carol Dweck's work on mindsets. And I'm really talking more about your mindset as a leader and the decisions that you have to make every day. So when you're making a decision, is the mindset that you are employing, is it going to move your school forward? Okay. Is it helpful? And so if we look at this mindset continuum, and the reason I really like this graphic is because there's been a lot of misconceptions over the years, the 15 plus years, that it's an all or nothing thing, that we all want to be in growth mindset. And that's not true. That's not realistic, right? We're all somewhere on this continuum. And based upon the situation and context, it's just really important for us to understand what our mindset is. It's all about that self-awareness piece. And if that mindset is going to negatively impact the decision that we need to make as a leader. So I wanted to step back from this continuum and just focus then on these two ends of the spectrum, right? And the reason I wanted to do that is because where we can get into some trouble is if we are going into every decision or situation with a fixed mindset. If the mindset is that everything needs to be perfect, or you're struggling or pushing against change all the time, it's very exhausting. It causes exhaustion and burnout. And burnout is something we've heard a lot of. We talked a lot about when we're talking about our staff and burnout, especially the last few years. And interestingly enough, I just learned that the World Health Organization, this was back in 2019, recognized burnout as an occupational phenomenon, and primarily in fields of service like education. And also those high achievers feeling more of that burnout because of that expectation to be perfect. Okay. And as I was doing a little bit more digging, I found some stats that really floored me, and maybe you want to chat about this in the chat box too. But in this survey of many principals across the country, the average tenure of a principal is 4 years, and that really floored me. We talk about teachers and our staff burned out, and we want to protect that and help them. But what about the administrators? That's every 4-year turnover. That's a 20% national, almost 20% turnover rate, which is incredibly high. Now, I didn't want to share this to be all doom and gloom, right? That was not the point of this. The point was to really understand the importance of mindset and how your mindset impacts your decisions and also impacts your health and how you respond in different situations. So if we wanted to move ourselves to more of that growth mindset as a leader, I wanted to give you some practical strategies to consider that you can walk away from. First, seek out PD that you would not normally sign up for. Learn new things, learn something new. Seek out PD on growth mindset. Learn more about what does that mean to be a leader with a growth mindset. Connect with other school leaders who understand your challenge. Like we're here today, this Better Together is a great example of that. So you're on that path towards that growth mindset. and intentionally seek out those innovative, creative teachers that are doing some incredible things in your school to push your school forward, to innovate, to transform the classroom. And when we do fall into that fixed mindset, it's very easy for us to have that negative self-talk, right? That if it's not perfect, it's awful, it's terrible. And so reframing that negative, here's an example. I'm so overwhelmed. I have too much on my plate and I'm not able to lead the way I want to. Well, let's take it a different direction. I have a choice to make, a change. There's only so much I can do in a day, and let's just make sure what I do matters, right? So it's just putting a more positive spin on something that could be very negative and bring you down. Encourage others to make decisions, alleviate some of that pressure on yourself, that decision fatigue that you have by the end of the day. Are there other people that can take that over for you? Empower them to do that. And this one might be controversial because it's a tough one here, but you get a lot of problems every day, from parents. You get things that you have to respond to, and you're asked to solve them, but it's not practical or possible to do that. So by listening actively, by being empathetic, which I saw as characteristics of a good leader, hopefully that will empower those individuals to find solutions and solve those problems themselves. So these are just a few tips or strategies to move towards that growth mindset as a leader. So now we're going to go to the final area to build that leadership philosophy. So we talked about leadership styles. We talked about core values. We talked about our mindset. Now, what experiences has shaped you to become the person and the leader you are? And so that doesn't necessarily mean, I have a picture of me here, that you're sharing your diary at your next staff meeting and talking about how much you're in love with Kirk Cameron in 1987, right? That's not the point of this. The point of it is to really show that transparent, authentic self through your leadership by bringing in those experiences that have shaped you. Your staff will have context now into maybe why you decide the things that you do. So think about things in your life, like your first job. Everyone take a moment and think about their first job. And maybe you want to write it in the chat box. I was cleaning toilets at a fun park. I think I was 17 years old. That was my first real job with a real paycheck. And I learned a lot from that, right? That was something that helped shape me. Or your first leaders, those leaders that were both exceptional and toxic, because our life experiences, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. We bring in those warts too, right? They shape who we are. And any other lessons that you've learned early on that you can bring to this leadership philosophy. So think about how you can use these experiences to lead. Because to really be that authentic leader, this is a huge part of it. And in multiple books that I've read, they talk about life experiences being a big part of that authentic leadership story. Okay, so I shared with you 4 areas to focus on in creating this leadership story: your leadership style, your core values, your mindset, and your life experiences. But most importantly, we want to hear from you. We want to talk together. So we're going to share our ideas in a breakout session. And Robin, how are we doing on, let's see, I'm just looking to see. Yeah, I think we could do.
We're real close to the limit, Dawn. So I think 3 probably makes the most sense.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Robin is our behind the scenes guru here. Thanks, Robin. I appreciate it. She's helping me out.
You're welcome.
So we'll do 3 breakout rooms. So I will be in one. My colleague Randy will be in one, and my colleague Temple will be in another. And we'd have this discussion cheat sheet here. So you can use the HyperDoc, but if you're like me, need something a little bit more focused, you can take that QR code, or I think Aaron was putting it in the chat box right now. That's the cheat sheet of those 4 different areas and the different things that I talked about that we're going to use in the breakout sessions. So what we're going to focus on are basically, what did you take away from these 4 ideas? and how can you apply it? So going to have just that open conversation to really learn from each other. All right, Robin, let us know when you're all set with that, and we'll see you back in about 20 minutes.
We are all set, Dawn. We will launch it right now.
Okay, great.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey there, Aaron.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm not on camera, but I'm here as well. My name is Hiba.
Oh, hi, Hiba. Glad you could join us.
Thank you.
And then Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hey there.
Hi, and Ginny. Oh, so great to have you all here.
Thank you.
Okay, I think looks like that might be everybody. So I like this. So we have a nice smaller group, which is nice to talk. So I think we could just dive right in. And it'd be helpful too if like maybe we're sharing, maybe give kind of where you're at, where you're coming from, school and place, and kind of share your story. I'd love to hear it. So I guess we'll start it off with those kind of the leadership style. Any takeaways from that or any applications there?
So I can start.
Yeah.
Did you want me to give background on myself first?
Yes, yeah, I'd love
Okay.
to hear it.
So I work at a private school in Canton, Michigan. We're a faith-based school. We go from pre-K to 8th grade, actually childcare to 8th grade. And I'm a principal here. I've been working as principal. This is my 4th year. I've kind of lost track, but no, this is my 3rd year. Okay, this is my 3rd year. I actually started as a teacher at the school. So I've grown with the school. I taught 5th grade and 8th grade. I was vice principal and now I'm principal. So even though I'm newer to principalship, it's my 14th year at the school. So I feel like when I look at my leadership style, it's probably a hybrid. I feel like like you said, it's situational depending on what's going on and then who I'm dealing with. So in some things I am autocratic as far as having to make a decision, kind of like an administrative decision right away. But I feel like I'm mostly democratic as far as shared decision making and then trying to support and encourage the teachers and get feedback from them. But as probably most administrators know, there's some things you have to draw the line and not completely democratic on either. So I feel like I'm a blend of the autocratic, democratic.
Excellent, excellent. Have you ever had any issues with the leadership style? Like, has there been any conflicts?
Yes. So, when COVID hit, I think some of the autocratic decisions that we had to make from our leadership stance, some things people really appreciated, but other things people didn't. They felt like it was micromanaging. But I think what people didn't realize is that when you're in a crisis, you don't have, like you said, you don't have that time to get people's feedback. And it might not be the most perfect decision, but it's the best decision you can make in that circumstance. So I feel like COVID was a challenge because we had to make more autocratic decisions than we usually do. And I feel like that's where I face the most conflict. With the democratic, people usually appreciate it. And sometimes people will say, I really need your help in just making the call. Like they want me to be more autocratic. So I work with them on that. Like, what do you need from me? How can I be the most supportive? But autocratic is the most challenging to, I think, use with staff.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I could say that my leadership is probably situational, depending upon the situation. I've been in education for 27 years and administration for probably 18 of those years. I've been everything from a assistant principal all the way through a superintendent. Right now, I'm a principal of an elementary school and loving every single minute of it. And I'm a grandmother of 315 grandchildren. So, hey, it's awesome. The hardest decisions that I ever had to make were in the superintendent world because you politically you have to really decide where you stand and what you believe in. And you're never going to make everybody happy, which is a little
No.
for me as a person, because I want people to like me, and that's a tough role for me to have played. And when my board decided to go in a totally different direction and be unethical in some areas, I stepped out of that position.
Mhm.
As a principal, I'm with the last Sarah who shared, because there are times when there's democratic decisions you can make, and then there's times when you can't make a democratic decision. It all depends on the situation and the timing. The principals, beyond teachers, make the biggest impact in the classrooms if they're good instructional leaders. And that's what I guess I strive to do as a principal. It gets harder as a superintendent to be a strong instructional leader, because people care sometimes a little bit more about the football field than they do about the curriculum. So those were things I had to learn.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Jenny.
I am Gwen Lubin. I am the first year principal at Oakwood Intermediate, which is in Allendale, Michigan. We are just between Grand Rapids and Grand Haven, so home of the Grand Valley State Lakers, Go Lakers. First year in this position, I think this is 20 or 21 in education. So taught in a classroom everywhere from first grade to sixth grade. And then I went to our ISD and did our Career Line Tech Center. So did CTE for about 6 years. Taught actually Teacher Academy. So it was great to have juniors and seniors in high school who were trying to figure out what life looked like for them working with kids somewhere. So loved that role too. So it was a good mix there. And then came back just to work back in my own community, and was in the classroom for a year, and then kind of have moved on to this role. So I'm glad to be here. It's very busy. I had a life event happen just before school started, and so didn't necessarily get the time that I wanted to get things up and running, but we're going for now, and feel like we're making some good progress moving forward. So I would say, like everybody else has, I think it's situational. It depends on the situation is, and what decisions need to be made, and who's going to be affected by them. But I would say too, I'm mostly Democratic, as much as I can be. I'm really striving, would love to hear anybody who's doing something around purpose in their buildings for their students. And so how do we help them have more purpose in the building, purpose outside of themselves, and for a bigger cause. And so that's really what I'm hoping to move forward with in this role. So huge community advocate and volunteer myself. And so I have in the past ran some volunteer opportunities with my students and families. And so just absolutely loved it. I saw a huge difference in the kids that I had. Some of my roughest, toughest kids were like we would take them to, extended care facilities and nursing home, and they were like putty in those people's hands. And those were my roughest, toughest kids, but they would sit next to, some elderly people and read their mail and play bingo with them. And you're like, man, who are you now? Like, this is not who I see at school. So, so it was great it's there. It's just, we need to figure out how to uncover it for some of our kids. And so, so yeah, love the idea of anything project-based, authentic, real world application for our kids. And so, just that's the direction I want to go moving forward. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really great. The purpose driven. And so obviously that's probably something for you, Gwen, that's like one of your core values too, right? Yeah. Is that kind of giving back, or that community feel, and all of that. And that's why you're making these decisions for your district, because of that.
Right. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. I know we've got Sarah and Veda. I don't know if you had, Sarah, if you wanted to share a little bit.
Sure. So Sarah Seiswerda, I work I'm in sort of a different role. So I work over at a private operating foundation in Berry County. So I run our education department. And we have a contract with Hastings area schools. So I provide science coaching and curriculum for 55-ish teachers in Hastings, along with a bunch of other teachers that I work with throughout Berry County. And so I've been in education about 20 years. I've been in this role for 9 years. Really, I think like everyone said, sort of, I shift through sort of the spectrum of from being, having to make decisions in some aspects, like especially with science curriculum. I find that a lot of my teachers just want me to, like make the curriculum, tell them what to do so they don't have to necessarily think about it and have the materials ready. But in other sort of aspects of my job, I'm a lot more in sort of a coaching role, or all the way down to sort of laissez-faire, where it's more trying to enable some of my staff members to be able to make their own decisions and sort of support them without necessarily interfering that much. And so it, depends on which person it is. I supervise a bunch of people, so it's it varies some. So I will say for Gwen, I was reminded we have a high school program that we're doing this summer, and one of the things that I know for us that has helped with purpose and sort of student engagement is having problems that are local to the community and that are relevant to the students' lives. And often if you can pull in community members to be sort of an authentic audience, it makes it seem more real for the kids. And so it can, like we're talking about water quality, but in the realm of fish edibility. And so we'll have like the bass fishing team and some of the local fishing people talking to us about it, in addition to some of the science people, and so that they can see that it impacts people in their families or their community.
Yep. Love it. Love it. We're doing something with the county now. We have a water table situation too. And so we've got some county people that are coming in and some conservation people. We also do I also am a proponent of kind of career development. So career exposure, I guess, how do we get the kids to start thinking about what that next level maybe is for them? And so each of our character traits each month, we have three local business people that come in and share how they use that character trait in their jobs. And so we're constantly trying to expose our students to the community and what kinds of jobs there are out there. So so thanks for that, Sarah. That's another, just the continuation of how do we bring the community in and show them what the great things we're doing, but then same exposing our kids to those real world applications and experiences too. So yeah, thank you.
Right. Great. Jenny, did you want to say something? I just saw you on mute.
Yeah, one thing that we did was we had a week of service, and we called it a week of community service. And our kids, you really have to get buy-in on this, but our entire high school, 9 through 12, signed up for service opportunities throughout the week. We took them to nursing homes where they did a jazz band P. We took the band there. Some of them went out and worked at the shelters, the animal shelters. Some of them went and worked at the community parks and all sorts of things. It was a wonderful week. Some painted the Little League baseball plays and all sorts of stuff. But that was probably one of the highlights for the teachers and the kids, because they spent a week, and it was different times during the week where we took 5 days, but they didn't do something every 5 days, but we had kids doing something. Not all of the same, if I'm making sense, but what a service opportunity. People did help and called us. We even had families that called and said, we know an elderly family that can't get to the trees and the grass in their backyard and the leaves. Can you come there? It was quite act on our community when they did that, and they continued. So it's kind of neat.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for sharing that. Excellent ideas. And that's the whole point of this, is just this better together, and we're sharing ideas and experiences. And really it's all about you. What is it that you're looking for, and what ideas that you have to share. And so we talked about the leadership styles and kind of how that we gravitate towards one or the other. And then I know we're running a little low on time, so I'm just curious of those other things that were mentioned, kind of those core values, mindset, and life experiences. Like, was there something that kind of resonated, or something like, ooh, that's something I might consider, or anything you want to take away from that?
I really like the core values chart.
Mhm.
I want to look at it in more detail, but I did write down some of the ones that resonated with me. And it makes me wonder, okay, that's how I view myself as a leader. How would my teachers view me? What core
Right.
values do they see in me?
Mhm.
Especially since I talked about COVID, especially during that crisis time. What did they see me like being consistent in? So it just got me thinking, like, okay, I think I hopefully do these things. What would my staff actually think?
Right. Yeah, because that's you want to live out your values. You want to make sure that you are doing that, and it would be interesting to find out if that's coming through. Absolutely.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
great point. Sarah?
I actually really liked the idea of like the sorting cards
Mm-hmm.
and being able to try something like that out with staff members and like figure out sort of what things mean a lot to them. Because I do know I work with a lot of different people, and for some of them, they definitely have hot button things that if you aren't living up to their expectations in one way or another, like whether it's getting stuff to them on by a certain deadline or just whatever it is, like figuring out what some of those core values they have, I think could also help me be more effective working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Veda just, she's not able to join in the audio right now, but she put a message in the chat. She said, I agree regarding the core values chart. Take a look at it as well. So thank you. Yeah. I love that you use it with your staff, too, thinking about that, because it is important for that self-awareness piece, but also to know, the people that you're working with, what are their core values, and could there be potential conflicts because do they complement each other? How can we make sure we can work together in a way that's going to move the school forward? Good. All right, so we have just I think a little under 2 minutes left. So anything else on the life experiences or mindset? That stat that I shared floored me. So I don't know if you wanted to comment on that at all. Like, I was shocked by that. So yeah, Gwen, go ahead.
I was shocked too a little bit. I guess all the administrators in our district have been around for a long time, so
Yeah.
I was a little surprised at that too. But for the most part, but I feel like it takes you a couple years just to get in and get acclimated with it first, and 3 or 4 years to get good at it. Super
Right.
good at it. It's the same thing with teaching, right? You're never champion the first year, but first couple years. But so I was a little surprised at that too. It's a lot of work. There's no doubt. You can understand why why they're getting out and different situations. But yeah, I was a little surprised too. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
On that. So yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
One of the things I had thought of related to life experiences was actually like, I have a lot of new teachers this year and not very many experienced teachers. And it actually made me wonder about maybe recording some of the retired teachers I'm friends with, like some of their best nuggets of advice, some of the people I really respect, and sharing those. So it's not just them hearing from me, but getting advice from some of those folks who taught for a long time. Because I one of the things I've sort of struggled with is trying to figure out how to support some of our newer teachers in ways that don't always feel like it's just me being like, you're doing a great job, like, or, maybe I've been coming in to teach in their classrooms and do different things to try and help alleviate some of their stresses as they've gone, but thinking outside the box about how can I help give them advice where it's not all just my ideas.
Right. Yeah. I really, really love that idea. I think it's great. Yes. Awesome. Reach out. Thank you for sharing. All right. So it looks like our breakout room time is over. So if you gotta go ahead and leave, and we'll see you back in the main room. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think we're back, right, Robin? Thumbs up, Robin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're
Okay.
good.
Good. Thumbs up. All right. Well, thank you. And we can see the screen. Everything's good. Make sure. Okay.
Looks
Excellent.
good.
All right. Well, thank you all so very much. I know that, in my session, I'm sure the other ones, it was great to hear from each other and talking about different ideas and experiences. Because of time, I'll leave this question up there. So at any time you want to put something in the chat box about your biggest takeaway from the session, process that from the breakout room, go ahead and do that at any point. But for right now, I'm just going to move on to make sure that your time is held sacred. So we're going to continue our discussion here and wrap up here. So I just wanted to put everything all together, leading with your true self. So I created this checklist based upon everything that we've already talked about and things that you've probably discussed in your breakout room as well. First thing is just being self-aware, that self-awareness, know who you are as a leader. What are your preferences? What are your styles that you gravitate towards? Be aware of that mindset, as you're going in and making your decisions. Is it helpful or is it not? Learn from and use your life stories. Okay. In my breakout room, one of the participants mentioned using life stories also from other teachers to help new teachers. So building that into your story. Act on your values. Okay. Your values are who you are. It's what makes you you. So make sure that they're visible and that your staff knows what your values are. Be grounded in genuine, what you see is what you get type of thing. And this, I love the analogy I read about a house and how in each room, maybe you have your friends in one room and you have your colleagues in one room and then you have your family in one room. And you're putting on these different kind of personas or hats in each room you go into. Let's knock down those walls and be that authentic self. So what you see is what you get, whatever room that you walk into. Discard the actor. This is the whole fake it before you make it philosophy, which believe me, I've used that before as well. And I know sometimes we have to use that, but you're doing that all the time is very exhausting and obviously not authentic. So think about just being honest and transparent, authentically confident. So if there's something that you don't know, you're not sure what direction you're going to be able to take your staff. You don't have an answer at that moment. Just be honest. Let them know that. Your staff will trust you enough to know that, what, he or she may not know that now, but they're going to figure it out and everything's going to be okay. And to remember that you are good enough. You are good enough. You are good enough to meet the challenge, to figure things out and to connect with others. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you wouldn't be in the position you are in if those things weren't true. And always as important, we've heard this so much, it's always making sure that we're having that good balance between our work and in our personal life. And finally, making sure that you have support and support outside of school, from your family, your friends, maybe a mentor, maybe like-minded educators, because we truly are better together. We are. And so I wanted to share with you a little bit about our story, the Van Andel Institute story, and how we can support you in meeting those goals and helping you be the leader that you want to be. And so it really all starts with the core values. What do you hold true? And this is, again, the lens that we use to make all our decisions and to create our story as an institute. So we're very collaborative. We work together. We get feedback. We get input from our staff. We also want to take risks. We know that we want to create classrooms where creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking thrive. In order to do that, we have to throw things out there. We got to try things. We have to make change to transform those classrooms. And so we're very innovative and we take risks, more of that open or growth mindset. And finally, we practice what we preach. We live and breathe teaching and learning. We have countless years of classroom experience amongst us. We have students that come in during the day and after school 4 times a week. And so we take all of that life experience working with those students in those classrooms, and we bring it to everything we do to support teachers and admins. And that support, we start at that foundation, that building that capacity for that teacher, that's honoring the profession, that's giving them that knowledge that they can now go back into their classroom and implement. But we know we can't stop there. It doesn't stop right there. We know that the teachers need those resources, right? They need those lessons. They need the scaffolds. They need the strategies in order to take what they've learned, this capacity they've built, and put it into practice. And finally, we can't stop just there, just giving them a lesson plan and giving them the PD. We have to be there. We have to be there as that ongoing support, okay? In order to provide them the help that they need, whether it's a call out of the blue that, hey, I need this resource in order to move forward. We can do that. We will be that ear that they need and that help that they need throughout that process. And so that is our approach to supporting teachers and administrators. And now I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Erin, who's going to take us through the end of our time together and wrap everything up with an awesome giveaway.
Thank you so much, Dawn. So yes, I mean, as Dawn had mentioned, we're here to support educators. That's what we're all about. And so we want to support your school. We want to support your district, and kind of everything starts with us with that needs analysis. And so from there, we can provide a nice, succinct report to kind of show you some areas of strength that you might have and some maybe some opportunities as well too. It's completely free report. And from there, we can help customize a specific professional development plan to help support your teachers and help support you as an administrator. And also too, as you can kind of see above there, we have 20% off. So that's our Better Together discount. And that's good for our Flex PD. We have over 70 different topics to choose from. So we definitely can figure out something that can help support your team and your building or your district. We also have teacher resources as well too. Our Blue Apple project specifically focused on project-based learning. We offer field trips, science quests as well too, and we're big on that sustained training component. So we do provide ongoing support for your teachers through virtual sessions and other coaching opportunities as well too. And so we will be doing a drawing as well to win a free lunch and learn. And this is going to be a 45-minute virtual learning session of your choice for your teachers. And we will also provide lunch for up to 20 teachers as well too. So you can kind of see that QR code there. You can, I will also put the link in the chat as well too. So we encourage you to fill that out and we'll be drawing the winners likely tomorrow, and I will be reaching out to you as well. But thanks again for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to connecting with you again here soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Please make sure to enter the giveaway there, and feel free to write in the chat any last words or comments or even suggestions for us for next time. We just really appreciate you and everything you do for your schools, for your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, you too.